ADvTECH, Africa's largest private education provider, has reported an increase in profits last year. This thanks to an increase in enrolments, despite not increasing school fees. Schools in South Africa increasing revenue by 4% to 2.2 billion rand. The increased revenue also contributed to a recovery in the extramural and aftercare in the second half of the year. But ADvTECH did have some difficulties with its tertiary schools division. The company, whose tertiary brands include the Rosebank College, Varsity College as well, reporting that tertiary student enrolment and the registration cycle was severely disrupted as a result of the delayed release of the 2020 matric results. But the company says it's now seeing growth in both face-to-face and online enrolments. All right, so I want to get more on that very important issue on private school education. So we look at those results carefully. Roy Douglas is the CEO. He joins me now to unpack the results. I mean, you must be pleased, Roy, that just given the economic circumstances, you still have parents pursuing, economically and putting their kids in institutions like yours. So the enrollment numbers are up.
Yes, indeed, Devin. We are very pleased both with these results and also the forward look. We've also been able to give some indication as what our enrolments are for 2022. And the positive trend that we've experienced in the last few years has continued and even gained momentum as we look forward. So quite clearly, consumers do value quality education, and we're very pleased that our brands and brand positioning is meeting their demands and expectations. And we've got very positive enrollment numbers, which is great.
I'm just wondering, back to my earlier point, that you are in a space where you've got the petrol price going up, food inflation is high, and you just think, well, look, how much is there left for that payments every month when it comes to school and education? How's those circumstances affected some of your clients and pupils?
There's absolutely no doubt that we are acutely aware and conscious of the fact that consumers' disposable income is under massive pressure, and even more so as a result of some latest developments. So we're delighted. We've been working extremely hard on delivering value. We understand that private education is expensive, but we are determined through revising our structures, processes and systems to eliminate wastage and duplication. It's not something that you often hear education companies talk about: productivity, effectiveness, efficiency. And yet that's exactly where we've been putting the thrust and the focus over the last few years. You'll be aware that education inflation is notoriously renowned for increasing at possibly 2 percentage points above normal CPI. And we don't believe that that's necessary at all. So we've been working on efficiencies, structures, processes, systems, specifically to drive value for our consumers, understanding that their disposable income is under significant pressure. And it really is pleasing to see that obviously that is gaining traction with the market, and I think our enrollment growth bears witness to it.
Roy, it's been 2 years since we had those lockdowns. I think the anniversary or the commemoration of those 2 years was this weekend. An incredible difference, I would think, compared to when we first entered lockdown. And really, the pressures of that, and the suffocation, if I can call it that, of those lockdown measures couldn't be seen more in places like schools, where you've got to get the education going, but you have some of these barriers. What's it like now with some of these conditions and restrictions having a relief? It must be a relief for you as well.
Yes, indeed. The pandemic really was a very unfortunate in a sense, and had the potential to disrupt education quite significantly. We were delighted because, in fact, we were able to stress test our organization. We obviously have the capability to deliver online education, particularly in our tertiary business, where it's an acknowledged and recognized mode of delivery. Switching our schools, which of course is much more historically face-to-face, was going to be a test for us, and one which we actually passed with flying colors. We put some 75,000 students online in a matter of 3 weeks when the pandemic hit and the lockdown regulations came into effect. So that gave us the ability to stress test the organization, as I say, and something which we managed to cope with. But there's absolutely no doubt, I think there's all-round relief. And in fact, quite some happiness about the fact that school children in particular can return to the classroom. Things are returning to normal. And I think that social interaction, the participation in a classroom environment, is such an important component of a holistic education. So it is pleasing that we're getting back to a higher level of normalcy, despite the fact that we actually coped extremely well during the pandemic.
All right, thanks very much indeed. ADvTECH CEO Roy Douglas, thanks indeed for that. Those ADvTECH results coming out earlier in the day. All right.